everybody, and welcome. I'm Caden Drummiller. By my side is Manny Pereira, and this is the HCST Athletics show. This is our first episode, and we are the only news network dedicated solely to coverage of Hudson County basketball. Manny, how's it going?
Doing well. Hudson County sports in general, right?
Hudson
Not
County
limited
sports.
to just basketball. Today, though, is just a basketball show, but I'm doing well, super excited to finally get this show on the road, kind of literally, kind of figuratively. But yeah, it's good stuff. Also, before we start, we got to plug the socials. We're not just doing this on YouTube. This is the YouTube portion. Make sure you follow us at HCST Athletics on Instagram. TikTok account should be up shortly. We're fixing some stuff up before we get that account running. But Instagram account is live, and we're going to have content going up there as well.
Yep, so a big weekend for basketball. Things are kind of getting started. A lot of games this week, but two Hudson County boys teams started off their seasons at the NJ Basketball Coaches Tip-Off Showcase over at Montgomery High School. Two big games played by two big teams, Hudson Catholic and St. Peter's Prep. Both took the floor, and surprisingly, we're going to start off with that. St. Peter's Prep, the number 2 seed in the state, defending county champs, took a loss to number 12 Colonia, a 46-40 game. Not really what they were looking for, not really what the county was looking for to start the season. 4-star Aiden Durkak from Colonia dropped an absolute bomb on this St. Peter's Prep team. 23 points, 4 rebounds, leading his team towards the upset. Manny, thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, Prep comes in. They're most likely not to reveal the power rankings a little bit early, but everyone knows they're the big dog, right? They're the defending champs. They've won 2 years in a row, and they have a lot of the same guys coming back. I think my biggest takeaway with this game is there were some concerns going into the year for Prep with Peyton Miller, who has officially transferred, and then Nico Pena, who obviously graduated. Those are kind of two guys that they had last year that you could kind of go to and be like, get me a bucket. So Coach Mirabel now doesn't have that luxury with those two guys, but obviously Austin Spencer, who was one of those guys last year and is still very, very capable with the ball in his hand to create his own shot. And then you also have Richie Rosa, who, of course, is the floor general. He's the point guard. But when he has to turn on the scoring switch or flip the scoring switch, he can do it at a very high level as well. Richie Rosa, though, he was out. He started the game, but he got hurt. I think he's out for 2 weeks. It's an eye injury is what I was told. And then Austin Spencer did not play or didn't put up any stats, according to NJ.com. So then you're kind of, I don't want to say stuck, because obviously they have a luxury of good players, and they have a ton of good players. But Mason Santiago, he had 8 points, right? If Richie Rosa's playing that whole game, he probably has 12. Rosa sets it up, probably spaces the floor a little better. And then you got to give Eric Porch big minutes, who's still going to get good minutes throughout the season. And he is going to be a good player, somebody who's supposed to take that next step. But then Caden Post, who is just a sophomore, asking him first game of the season to take that pretty big spotlight, have the ball in his hands a lot. And I'm not going to panic with Prep. I still think they're the best team in the county, and I still think they might be the best team in the state when they're fully healthy. But they also shot bad from the line, and that's normal. First game of the year. Hudson didn't shoot well from the line either as well, and they won their game, which I think we're going to comment on next. But yeah, I'm not concerned about St. Peter's Prep at all. They played a very good Colonia team, and Aiden just had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. 11 for 21 from the free throw line for St. Peter's Prep in a 6-point loss. That'll have you running laps.
Yeah.
And then the Rosa injury, 5 points before he headed out, the eye poke, 2 weeks or so, but we hope to see him back. We've seen him grow as a player ever
100%.
since he was a freshman. He's been dominating the county tournament. He's been dominating New Jersey basketball as a whole. I think we're all excited to see where he goes, possibly a commitment this year. You know, maybe he waits, maybe he sees, but always a possibility. And then Hudson Catholic, the number 12 team, so quite a fall for them. They went from number 6 to number 12, and I think we all know why. They lost the All-American to Hod Pettiford, off to number 2 ranked Auburn now in the NCAA, also Alex Masung over to Penn. And then unranked Montgomery, a nice win. Not playing a team like Colonia, not getting up in the rankings, but 26-point performance from Ethan Lynn. They defended against that. Seniors stepped up big. Keith McKnight, 15 points, 8 rebounds. Omari Moore, 16 points, 6 rebounds. So big from the veterans. Free throw shooting, like you said, also wasn't as good probably as they'd hoped. 11 for 20 from the line.
Yeah, and that's kind of commonplace. Again, this is high school sports, and first game of the year, free throw shooting may not be all the way there, whether it's jitters or just not everyone is entirely in rhythm. But this Montgomery team was really spectacular last year. They won 25-4. So Hudson gets a good win. This is a good win, although they may not be ranked in the state. Montgomery is a great win. And another player that they lost was Javon Rampersant, who decided to transfer, 6'8", good big man. He's not a part of that squad anymore. Now Keith McKnight plays a bigger role, but perhaps the biggest narrative and maybe the biggest question mark, the thing we were anticipating the most with Hudson Catholic was Yu Liu, who is a freshman and is also a big man, good player. He could also handle the ball. And then Andrew Edu, who is a sophomore, a school out of Newark. He just transferred. I'm not sure if it's Newark Arts. I think it is. Don't quote me on that. Look it up. But yeah, Andrew Edu, good player. He could rebound the ball. He actually, he didn't really get involved, didn't put up any stats, but he did play. And Yu Liu had 4 points. And I don't know if his rebounds are logged here because we only have 2 rebounders. Like only Keith McKnight and Omari Moore have rebounds in the NJ.com stat sheet. But I'm sure they were both involved on the glass, and it kind of went well for them. They were to pull off a win against a good team. If those 2 guys do their job, they still have pretty good guard play with Omari Moore. And maybe the biggest concern, I don't want to reveal everything, power rankings, but I'll end off on this. Who's going to be their point guard? That was probably the biggest question going into this game and into the season. Noriega James played a lot of minutes. I think he's a good guard. Maybe he answers that question for them. They start off well, 1-0.
All right. That covers the games, the 2 games that were played at the Tip-Off Classic. Now it's time to get a little opinionated. The power rankings for the boys and girls are here. The season hasn't started a lot for a lot of these teams, so we're not going off much. We're going off past performances. We're going off who's left, who's staying, who's coming in. All right, let's start it off. Boys power rankings, this is going to be a top 7 list. And at number 7, 22-6 in the National Division, first place, the Hoboken Red Wings have it. They were expected to make a run in the county tournament, didn't quite get so far. Bayonne with a big upset to make it to High Tech. Manny, your thoughts on this team for the...
Okay, so I came up with this ranking, and Hoboken at 7, this is the one that I feel maybe the least confident about. And I think if there's going to be any movement after the first week, it's going to be them moving up. Okay, Nick Petrozelli, great player, friend of mine. Hey, Nick, if you're watching, he's a great player. Lemire Boxley, also going to hit 1,000 points this year. Awesome, very experienced player. With those 2 guards, and then Nico Esposito, who was also first year at Hoboken, was last year. He plays maybe a stretch 4, and that's what he's best at. Maybe a stretch 4, maybe a shooter on the wing. But now he might have to play the 5. He's the tallest player on the team. I don't think he will. But at times, he is going to actually have to play the 5. He may not start there because they have Zaire Miller, who was their backup big man last year. But the reason I'm so concerned about this Hoboken team, even after I just talked so well about them, is because of that. Jonathan Jones last year was their big man, and he was so important, played such a pivotal role on that Hoboken team. They started the season without him, and they lost to a Ferris team that was nowhere near on their level in general, and they were still be able to get upset. And then they also lost to Irvington by 16 points. They really missed Jonathan Jones, and you could probably say in the beginning of the year there was jitters. Nick, Lemire, Nico, all getting used to playing with each other, although they grew up together, all Hoboken kids. High school, probably a different level. I am so concerned because I watch a lot of Hoboken basketball, and their minutes without John, they were definitely much worse and a different team than with him. I think they'll probably still be able to respond, but I just don't trust it. I have to see it before I can really rank them higher than the 6 teams above them. But I also want to acknowledge as we go through this list, and I'll end on this, 7 through 4 could be interchangeable throughout the entire year. That's why we capped it off at 7, because we think from 7, maybe even 7 to 3, if things get a little, nuts, that could be interchangeable throughout the year. So Hoboken starts the year at 7. I don't know if that'll stay like that, though, the whole year.
Yeah, I think most of your hate comments are going to be from this section.
100%.
Section of the list. So moving on to number 6, the Memorial Tigers are going to take that spot. An impressive state tournament run. They went all the way to Ridgewood in the semifinals where they lost a tight one. And I want to add, the additions list, pretty short. The losses list, pretty long. How'd they get the 6th spot with all that?
Okay, so speaking of those losses, Lewis Pantaleon, probably their best player, one of the candidates for HCIL Player of the Year, he's out. Edward Lugo, who was kind of their floor general throughout the year, he's gone. Jada Boykins, who had an awesome game against Ridgewood. We were on the call for that game. He's gone. Jonas Herrera, who was their 5, he's gone. Lazaro Cruz. So the entire starting lineup, I just think 5 guys. They're all gone. Yeah. And then maybe the biggest loss, in my opinion, not because of his impact on the floor, but because of how young he was, Marlon Martinez. They call him Pimpo over there in West New York. He was very good as a freshman. He showed that he can make an impact, and he got more and more and more minutes throughout the year. He played a pretty big role in that state semifinal game against Ridgewood. He actually transferred to a boarding school. And then they also lose their head coach, Steve Leon. And so now Stroback steps in. He's very respected among West New York. I'll say that. It's the town I'm from. Call me a homer. I have them over Hoboken. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to put them there. A lot of the reason has to do with the fact that they ended the year so well last year. They showed they can play in big games, right? And a lot of the guys that are on the team right now, they weren't necessarily playing, but they were around the atmosphere, and they've seen it. They know what it takes to win. And the biggest reason, actually, that I'm now putting them in this spot is Fernando Hernandez. He, as a sophomore, averaged 10 points a game, over 3 assists and a steal. And a lot of people argued that as a sophomore, he was the best player on his team. It was kind of a middling Memorial team, but then again, he was very young. He had a knee injury, and that's why he missed a year last year. A lot of people in town actually say, oh, what if he was playing last year, right? Maybe that team beats Ridgewood. That's an actual take that a lot of people have over in West New York, and I think he's going to make a big impact. Byron Vanterpool as well, good young player. He's going to get big minutes this year. And then between Solomon and Sean, I think they'll be able to defend themselves on the glass against other HCIAL teams other than Prep. Honestly, I think Prep on the glass is going to kill everyone this year. Maybe not Hudson. So I think against Hudson and Prep, they'll have trouble rebounding the ball. But against other teams in Hudson County, they should be at least able to defend themselves. And with that guard play, they at 6, I think is a decent spot for now.
I think there's a lot of room for movement there.
Yeah.
I mean, they can go anywhere. The head coach is gone.
We don't know. We have no idea how this team is going to look.
The starting lineup is gone. For all intents and purposes, I mean, it's a new team. Everything's new, and that leaves a lot up to the imagination, especially before we've even seen them take the court. So moving up into the number 5 spot is your 5th place finishers in the American Division. Quite a few losses. But quite a few young players also. We're going to put the Bayonne Bees out in the number 5 spot. Noah Shaw and Jalen Sims. We saw a lot of Jalen Sims last year in the Hudson County tournament. He had quite a few minutes for a freshman, a well-coached team. So the number 5 spot, Bayonne Bees.
Yeah, so their biggest losses, they got 3 big losses. Mike Cunningham, who was their big man, also a candidate for HCIL Player of the Year, did a lot for them on the glass. And Tashawn Isler, who is another one of their bigs, and maybe the biggest loss, but perhaps falls a little bit under the radar because he was injured last year. He didn't play the whole season, is Patrick Sagna. This was going to be his team, his senior year, and he was going to really be able, I personally believe, that he would have been able to put this team, like if he was here, they might be contending for the 3 spot. I probably would have had him at 3. I think he's that good of a player. He did it as a sophomore. He performed very well against good competition, but he leaves. So now you're with Noah Shaw, Jalen Sims. I think they're 2 good young guards, and they'll probably be able to find size elsewhere. And with Ben Gamble, who is a good coach, they always find a way to kind of win down the stretch. They win close games. They know how to win in the playoffs. We saw them completely upset Hoboken, and actually they played at Hoboken earlier in the season last year, and they got blown out. Then they won by 2. So Ben Gamble, he's a coach that knows how to make adjustments, and I just trust them. I really wanted to put them at 4, but I feel very good about the next team that we're going to reveal. But I trust Bayonne either way to be able to make the adjustments they need to make and maybe not foul too much because of how well coached they are, and with those young guards, get another offseason to develop, they'd probably be a problem in the HCIL.
Yeah, I mean, assuming they keep all their players, this seems like more of a development year for Bayonne. And when you can be 5th in the county, while in a year where your best players are sophomores and juniors, that's a really good sign, for what's to come for that squad. So moving on, number 4, we're going to put Union City. They finished 6th in the American Division, a 12-15 record. Started 0-7, so not great, but they picked it up moving towards the end of the season. A 12-5 stretch, lost 3, so 12-8 finish. Lost Anthony Gonzalez. Caleb Johnson comes back. What do we got on them?
Yeah, so the biggest narrative with this Union City squad, and I sense that most people might believe that they're a little higher than they should be, and that is because Anthony Gonzalez left. He's at Seton Hall Prep. As a freshman, was their leading scorer. He was awesome, could shoot the heck out of the basketball, and he decided to transfer and head elsewhere, go to Seton Hall Prep. We hope he has a good career, but Union City is definitely going to miss him. So yeah, you said it. They started 0-7 and then went 12-5. And the biggest reason I would personally say for that 0-7 start is Caleb Johnson being out. So they were desperately missing him towards the beginning of the year. They didn't really know what they had in freshman Alan Gomez, who actually stayed. Now he's a sophomore, and freshman at the time, Anthony Gonzalez. They kind of started to learn how to play together. We saw how they were able to adjust and go on a good stretch. Coach Morano was able to lead that team to a 12-5 stretch. Played 3 good teams at the end, ended up losing 3 straight. But still, 12-8 after starting 0-7, no matter how you look at it, is pretty impressive. Caleb Johnson had a pretty bad knee injury. So he is slated to play the first home game for Union City, which will be against Memorial High School. And I just trust that perhaps they start a little slow, so maybe they move down for the sake of week to week and adjusting to how the games are going. But what I trust is that down the stretch, because they did it last year and because Caleb Johnson is going to get better and better and better throughout the year, getting used to that knee, that they will be able to be a factor in the county tournament. And I actually think they'll make it to high tech.
All right, so that rounds out. We head to the top 3 now, and here is where, at least in my opinion, we have quite a big jump in the competition. Number 3 is Dickinson. Dickinson has a chance. They're the team that might make these games against Hudson Catholic, might make these games against St. Peter's Prep really interesting.
Yeah, I actually don't know if Dickinson can compete with Prep against Hudson. Everyone's telling me they could, so I'll take their word for it. But I did watch this Dickinson team play last year, and the one thing that I didn't like, and that actually players that compete against them have confirmed with me that they feel the same way, is that they kind of play like a 5-on-5 pickup style of game. There's really not much order to the way they run their offense, but with all that being said, they have so much talent on that roster, and they literally didn't lose that many players. They actually lost one real contributing factor in Joe Chris El Hello, I think is pronounced, but he wasn't even a top 3 leading scorer, or top 4 actually. So their top 4 leading scorers come back another year. They have a lot of guards that can shoot the heck out of the basketball. So I think they'll be able to outscore anyone except maybe Prep in the county on a good shooting night. But I don't know if I trust them to even stay at 3 throughout the rest of the year. I'm a little bit more skeptical than the rest of the county, than the rest of the county when it comes to Dickinson. But right now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And on paper, they should be the 3rd best team in the county.
All right, so let's move up to the 2 spot. And I know I said there was a gap between 3 and 4, but there really is a big tier jump here between Dickinson and Hudson Catholic. And that's the team that we have at our number 2 spot, probably suffering the harshest losses out of any team so far. I mean, they lost the All-American. We said that already. They lost 2 D1 prospects, another great player. And it's hard to come back from that. But Hudson Catholic, if any team, has the talent to do so. We got Omari Moore. He stepped up. All the seniors that stepped up in their first game. What do you have to tell us about this Hudson Catholic
Yeah,
squad?
they won 21-9 last year. They only lost 1 game in the HCIL, and that was perhaps the best regular season game the county has seen in years. Richie Rosa, buzzer beater from half court, spectacular game. I don't know if we'll get a game that competitive this year between those 2 squads, but I still think Hudson should be in the second spot. They have every right to be. We said it earlier, Yu Liu, Andrew Edu, two bigs that they get to replace Rampersant. And then Tahad and Masung, they obviously lose, but it's still a good team. And they're coming off a statement win with Coach Marinello. I trust that they'll be able to make the adjustments, change up their game plan a little bit, and still be a very competitive team throughout the state.
All right, so there we have it for your number 2. And if you couldn't tell, if you don't know what team we're about to say, you might not pay much attention to Hudson County basketball, but here we go, your number 1 team with the surprise to absolutely nobody, St. Peter's Prep. The Marauders take the spot. 2-time defending county champions. They have the talent. They have everything that they could possibly need, and they are our number 1 squad.
Yeah, not much to say. We spoke about the losses. They obviously lose Miller and Pena. But other than that, I mean, this is still a spectacular team. They're probably the biggest team in the county now that they have Kiner Asprilla. I think is how you pronounce his name. Bosco transfer, got 18 and 10 in a loss against Colonia. Great player. They have the size. They probably have the best guards when they're fully healthy in the county. So they're the best team. I think far and away, they're probably on their own tier. So we all expect the Marauders to win the county and be the most dominant team in the regular season.
Yep, I think that's your least controversial take
Probably.
Of all day. That's
Perhaps.
The safest one, and that's going to do it for our boys' power rankings. Now let's head over to the ladies. We've got our top 5 ready for them, and up in number 5 comes Kearney, a 15-13 season, 6-6 in the HCIAL, so a 500 record, and that has earned them a spot on your power rankings, Manny.
Yeah, Kearney, I definitely trust them over St. Dom's. I actually think there's a big drop-off from the top 5 down. Kearney, good team. They have good bigs. We saw them 2 years ago make it to the semifinals here in high tech. And now, I mean, their problem back then, actually, I would say, was the guards. Now they have Michaela David, who is a star. She averaged 12 a game as a freshman last year. She gets an offseason to develop. Sophomore year, this is definitely her team. Their only loss was Jocelyn Huancaya, who was a very good player for them. But they'll still be able, I think, with the rest of the pieces, to adjust and be a very competitive team. I actually believe, and I'll just go straight into the 4th spot here and kind of wrap this out, that this Sea Caucus team, who I'm going to talk about now, has a higher chance to lose against Kearney than they do to beat maybe Union City. And Union City, Sea Caucus has been a rivalry for the past 2 years, but I think Sea Caucus has kind of dropped off and Kearney has gone up. So to go into Sea Caucus, they went 22-7 last year. They're in the 4th spot of this power ranking. They lost in the county semis, 52-38. They got blown out. And the biggest concern was the losses of Mia Cruz and Alyssa Craigwell. Craigwell, who's at Montclair State, she's doing a great job. Mia Cruz was also their floor general last year. And we actually noticed something we talked about on the broadcast because we were on the call for that game, is that they were missing Daniela Pachetti, who was their senior from 2 years ago. She was the leader of that team. She was able to hold everything down on the court and off the court. We interviewed her. She was a great interview. And we noticed that Sea Caucus was missing her. We obviously believe that it's a very well-coached team. John Sterling, wonderful coach. We hope to have him on this show one day. But I think Kearney has gotten better, and Sea Caucus has perhaps gotten a little bit worse, or maybe not even a little bit, could be worse. They still have some freshmen. Obviously, Olivia Buckingham is a great player. She could shoot the heck out of the ball. They have some other shooters, but I'm concerned on what they will be on the glass because they weren't able to rebound well against Union City and what they will be distributing the ball.
Yeah, size definitely a concern for them. But I just want to say, I think the underclassmen on the Sea Caucus team are not going to have too much of an issue. They were forced to step up last year. A lot of them got a ton of minutes when they came here to High Tech for the Hudson County tournament. Probably didn't perform as well as they'd like to, but now they've been here. Now they know what it's like. They've been in those high-pressure moments, and I have high expectations for them come tournament time. So number 3 now, Hudson Catholic gets that spot, 8-4 in the division last year, a 12-13 record overall, so a pretty tough out-of-conference schedule for them. They made it here to High Tech. They came to the semifinals. They played the eventual champs in Bayonne, and they gave them a run for their money. They kept it close for quite a while in this game, had a nice run after halftime to bring things back together, and that's a team that I expect to be back here again.
100%. That was like a one-possession game in the third quarter, I think. I don't know if they actually tied or took the lead, but we know that they were getting blown out in that first half, and they went on a crazy run and kept that game close kind of throughout the second half. This Hudson Catholic team, they lose Akinola, who was their big man last year. She was very good for them. But they keep Gentile, they keep Schwinn, Edwards, Cyrus. They're still going to have enough size and enough shooting on the perimeter to be able to compete. And I actually think they're a pretty dangerous team in the HCIAL. So we spoke to Bayonne's head coach last year, Turner, after the game, and he told us, yeah, it's crazy when you play a team 3 times. I think Hudson, they're well coached, they're scrappy. We put them in the 3 spot, but it wouldn't be anything outrageous, at least I believe, to say that they can make it to the Hudson County final. I think this Hudson Catholic team is going to have really good shot of making some serious noise in the tournament. I have them in the 3 spot right now, though.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I think they've been here before now. They have the experience. They know what it's like, and who knows? It's one game. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
2 matchups maybe before that to figure out the team, get used to them. And the team we're talking about, number 2 on our list, Union City. Second to Bayonne in the national division. They went 11-1, 22-9 overall, and 2 big losses for them. Jalen Orifice goes, Alyssa Cueto goes, but still in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, Alyssa Cueto, who is the daughter of head coach Carlos Cueto, who is a phenomenal coach. She leaves. She's in college now. Orifice also graduated as well. This is going to be a very well-coached team. It's going to be a very disciplined team. It's going to be perhaps one of the best defensive teams throughout the entire state, because this team has experience of winning state titles. They won 2 straight, not last year, but the 2 years before. State titles, I'm talking about sectional titles. And they know how to play when the lights are brightest. They lose Orifice Cueto, we said that, but now they actually get a transfer, a new addition. Alyssa Sturdiron, who was the leading scorer at St. Dom's, she comes in, and she's actually probably going to replace Cueto, I could imagine. She'll perhaps be the point guard for Union City, and if she can, she's probably going to provide actually a little bit more scoring than Cueto, and it's not because Cueto wasn't able to score the ball. She just actually would choose not to. So good at distributing the ball and getting it to her teammates, and also taking charges. If Sturdiron comes in, buys into the culture of taking charges, getting into passing lanes, doing everything that you got to do, all the dirty work that no one else wants to do, to help win basketball games, they should be fine. They also keep Molly Brown, Ariana Madrid, and Zoe Mays, who are going to be contributors for them this season as well.
Yep, and that moves us up to the number 1 spot, the Kings of girls basketball in Hudson County, the Queens.
Yeah,
Excuse
Queens.
me, my bad. Bayonne Bees. They've been on this list twice, 4 straight county championships for them, and the good news for them, they keep most of their squad. They keep almost everybody, and especially Mackenzie Neal, who has just been so dominant in this county.
Yes, younger sister of Evan Neal, star tackle for the New York Giants. She has been awesome for them. And not only her, but Janaea Myers, Dasher. They have so many names throughout this roster that have been with them. 2 years ago, they won a group final. They went the whole way. They won a group final throughout the end of the season. So many trophies. James Turner's trophy case, we joked with him last year that he was going to have to buy 4 of those things, because not only did he keep winning last year, but we also expect them to win this year. Not saying the county is over on both sides, men's and women's, but there's 2 heavy favorites, Prep on the men's side and Bayonne on the women's side. We all expect them to be able to win the county because they play such great defense. They rebound the ball probably better than anyone that perhaps we've seen in women's basketball throughout the state. We're not saying there's no one else there, but at least from the coverage that we've done. And they they don't take a lot of threes, one, but they know how to get to their spots. They're big fans of the mid-range shot, which works because of the size that they have. And then they know how to get down low. And when they get down low, if you foul them, they're going to make their free throws. Exceptionally well-coached team, the Bayonne Bees. I expect them to win the county.
All right, and now with both power rankings complete, we're going to move on now to our game of the week. So every week, Manny and I will head and bring you guys live coverage of a HCIAL game. That will change based on the week. The teams we cover will change based on the week. So next Monday, December 23rd, we're heading over to Jersey City at the Barn, where St. Peter's Prep will be taking on St. Raymond's. That should be a very interesting game. That should be a game that tells us a lot about this St. Peter's Prep squad that comes after their first county game against Memorial tomorrow. So a lot to look forward to there.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to be going to games throughout the county, men's and women's. And by the way, we're not just only going to be covering basketball. Today is strictly the basketball preseason show. But tomorrow, county games start, right? We're going to see a big test between Hoboken and Hudson. I think just by the result of that game might tell us a lot about the legitimacy of this power ranking and how accurate it actually is. So stay tuned. Good luck to all teams involved, all coaches, all players. And it's going to be a treat. It's going to be a great season, right? And we're going to be all over. We're going to bring you guys all the coverage you need, play-by-play, everything to anticipate the big Hudson County tournament that we always cover here at High Tech.
That's going to do it for us today. I'm Caden Drummeller by my side. Manny Pereira, thank you all for watching.